Yeah, this is the Seton Rivals podcast where we get after it. Yes, we truly get after it as far as City of Chandler sports, with the emphasis on football, especially this time of year. We've been covering 8 teams for a while. Yes, it started with 6 and now we're up to 8. This is year number 12. And consistent success. That's what we aim to please. It's one of those things where the podcast has grown from audio only to visuals. It is amazing. Sports 360 AZ, the Facebook page, Arizona Varsity Podcast Network. You can catch us consistently. And if you're out and about, you can catch those 8 Chandler teams on a consistent basis. This past week, 6 wins and 2 losses, and someone was going to lose. And we're going to get deep into that game very shortly. But you know what? As I don't know if it's Little John or one of them people, all we do is win. That's what we do around here. And I've been winning for a long time with 2 guys, Ralph Amsden and Chili. And as always, it is great to kick it with you guys. And normally, I start with, hey, Ralph, what did you guys do over the past week, non-sports related? Chili, what are you up to? Little curveball. I'm going to talk about what I did this past week. In particular, yesterday. It started early. It ended late. Started off, Ralph, in the city you used to live in, Maricopa. Had a very early tee time, and I golfed really well. I'll say this was one of my really good rounds. It was a lot of fun. I'll say for a 6:52 a.m. tee time. Yeah, I got to leave the house pretty early, but the weather here was fantastic. And the one thing I'll say about myself with golf, which is maybe a little bit different, but especially when you get those early tee times, I'm not getting out there any earlier than I need to warm up. Holes 1 and 2 are the warm-up holes. It's I know some folks, they like to get out there and putt and drive for a half hour before, but no, I've never been that way. It's early. But it was a lot of fun getting the clubs out again, which I like to do regularly. But then the evening ended over at Hamilton High School. I took in the girls volleyball game, and it was great to see Ivana Martin and Carson Harris in action. They fell short to Corona del Sol, but just taking it all in and seeing Travis Dixon and Brett Palmer, it was just community feel. And that's what I really enjoy sometimes. Yes, it's not about football. It's just kind of watching the student section and understanding volleyball a little bit through parents' eyes. So it was it's good stuff. So that was my that was a big part of Tuesday.
How was the crowd out there for that game? I've been to a volleyball game thanks to Ralph assigning me way back in the day, thinking that it would open up my perspective on high school sports and stuff. Go cover some girls stuff, and how was the crowd? Because I do remember the one time that I went out to a Hamilton game specifically, like all the whole football team was there. They started filing in shortly after practice was finished up. They came in their practice gear pretty much, and it thickened up. The crowd thickened up obviously as it went on.
It was a nice crowd. Football wise, it wasn't necessarily well represented outside of Coach Dixon, but they had a student section. I think Sharon Vanis, who's the head coach there, I think she provided pizza and snacks as maybe a semi incentive, and teenagers are going to flock to where food is and things of that nature. So they were very boisterous, especially after Hamilton won the first set. So it was a very loud gymnasium. Corona traditionally is a stronger team, so they were represented as well. But it was a really festive atmosphere. It was a good time. It was definitely good to take in. And yeah, like I said, I started early and finished late.
Can I give you a Sharon Vanis fun fact?
Absolutely.
She is in the Central Community College Athletics Hall of Fame.
What?
Okay.
Central Community College is in Platte, Nebraska.
That's also
pretty much the central part of the country.
Yeah,
so right in the middle.
She played her post JUCO years out here in North Carolina at Guilford in Greensboro. But
Okay.
yeah, she's a JUCO volleyball Hall of Famer.
That's kind of cool, actually. That is, I'll definitely say that is a fun fact. Absolutely. Good stuff. No, that's Chili, what you got?
Oh shoot, not too much. This weekend was kind of light. Obviously, I didn't have to go to like an ASU game or anything like that, so I had a lot of time to kind of just hang out. Downloaded some video games, playing some Xbox, PS, and just kind of hanging out and playing online with some friends and stuff. So I had a lot of free time this weekend. It was actually kind of cool that ASU played on a Thursday.
I'll say this, yes, I enjoy when ASU does not have a home game, whether it's a bye week or a game on the road or even a Thursday. Yes, it opens up some doors. It opens up a little bit of free time. Ralph, I tell you, someone who has a little bit more free time in a weird way, Bryce Young. He's no longer the quarterback.
Yo,
I mean, it's not a rip, but I mean, you being based in Carolina, I mean, you're a little bit closer to that situation than, geographically than we are. The one thing that I'm not going to say I didn't realize that I forgot how much they had given up via trade to get that top pick. I totally forgot that they gave up a lot.
Well, they're not done yet because they're probably going to also include the 33rd pick in the 2025 NFL draft because they look like the worst team in the NFL right now, which means first pick, and they owe another second rounder to the Bears. Wasn't fun to watch that clip of Bryce Young walking into the stadium today, the day after getting demoted, but it was kind of fun to see him walking next to Jack Plummer on the way into the stadium, who's a Gilbert High School alum that we covered. It's rough. I'm a big believer that quarterbacks, when they get to the NFL, if it's not the perfect situation, they should probably sit. We have a million examples of quarterbacks coming in, learning, and looking good, from Matt Hasselbeck to Steve Young to Aaron Rodgers to Brett Favre. A lot of these guys that come in and they don't play right away end up having awesome careers. Patrick Mahomes, chief amongst them right now. You really have to be a special specimen to come in, take the lumps of being on what was a bad team. That's how you got a high draft pick and withstand all that. And some guys have a really, really hard time with that. Some guys physically, like Josh Allen, even he didn't play the first 8-9 games, kind of like a Eli Manning situation. But, physically, if you can withstand it, that's one thing. But Bryce Young's not big. He's not fast. He's smart. And smart doesn't do a whole lot for you if nobody's blocking.
Hey, I got a question. Since Brett, you started the Carolina Town podcast now. I am curious.
C-Town.
It all works, right? Is this like the best thing? The quarterback psyche is so like fragile, they say, at the highest level, because there can only be one, and you're obviously choosing to put one behind the other. Now, is this the best thing though? Because look at guys like David Carr that like teams decided to try to stick with and just kept taking the abuse. Do you think that Bryce Young in his mind is going to be like, hey, look, I'm actually being protected in this moment, and this is the best thing for me. Let me sit back and try to process this thing. Or is this just the next step for Carolina to be like, oh, you know what? Didn't work out, trade the guy and ship him off to Miami, and then he ends up throwing touchdowns to Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle and all those guys?
I hope he gets the psyche proper. I mean, I hope he looks at it as, hey, you know what? I probably do need a couple of years to absorb the NFL experience. I mean, Andy Dalton has been in the league way longer than I can remember. And I think, as we're kind of collectively saying, QB1 in the NFL, you've got to be magical. And especially at that young age, I mean, there's a certain amount of defensive reads that you have to know how to handle. There's a certain amount of teammate meshing that you have to command the huddle as a quarterback. And that takes time. That's not going to happen on day one of rookie year. And if it does, we see the results. And so, yeah, I'm a big believer in, obviously there's no red shirting in the NFL or anything, but at the same time, perhaps what the Falcons are doing with Michael Penix is great. He's going to sit behind Cousins this year and probably next, because I think Cousins has a second year on that big contract. So I think by year 3, Penix will be the guy. And I think that's what you got to have as quarterback. You have to have a certain amount of patience.
Okay. Yeah, you talked about this being the Charlottetown Rivals podcast. Guess who's been hanging out in my city? I had a brief exchange with him this morning.
Who?
Brandon Rice.
What?
Really?
Yeah. The Chargers came out here, and then they're just staying. They're practicing at University of Charlotte all week before. I think they play, nice. I don't know, Philadelphia or New York or something like that next week. Okay. But yeah, they're just here all week long.
Interesting.
That's lit.
Interesting. Definitely good stuff. No, it's
shout out to the
Seton is it is all connected. It definitely is. And back to the basis of Seton, and what a game Friday night. I mean, we'll begin with the Seton Catholic Sentinels. I don't want to make this game any bigger than it was, because there's obviously no championship implications in this one, but it's a shocker, and it's the biggest one that we've seen within our podcast teams in a long time. Final score, Seton Catholic 40, Valley Christian 14. Seton Catholic's a team that won 2 games each of the last 3 seasons, only 1 win in 2020. Ralph, this is the 2nd straight game that Sentinel defense has had 4 interceptions. I mean, they're coming to play, man.
4 interceptions, 4 different players, fumble recovery for a touchdown. When's the last time they had 3 touchdown passes in a game? 3 touchdown passes, 2 Luke Aguiar rushing touchdowns. So you get 3 passing touchdowns, 2 rushing touchdowns, and a defensive score. Add 4 picks to that. I don't know how you could do much better. Now, they did not play a perfect game. I think they fumbled the ball away in the red zone once. But they did a lot in this game. I think they were up 27-0 before Valley Christian did anything. And they also kind of baited VC into running a fake field goal attempt that wasn't good as well. So just an awesome performance from Seton Catholic. I watched the varsity show coverage of this game, and Pete Walheim's interview after the game was just physicality and balance. That was
balance was the key word that he used in that.
Yeah,
and that's accurate.
Yeah, and that's interesting to me that they have all this at their disposal, and they have a lot of people with a lot of varsity experience, but sometimes it doesn't work like that. Sometimes losing begets losing, and they're managing to put it all together. It kind of reminds me of that year 3, year 4 of Gary Gallant.
That's fair. That's very fair. Yeah, no, it's different. Chili, and I want to kind of go do the back and forth thing. Chili, what do we make of this from the Trojans standpoint? Valley Christian 1-3. Yeah, we saw J.R. Gill connect with Asher Hansel not once but twice. But talk to me about what this means for VC.
Hansel's back. That's good. They're 1-3. That's bad. And the rest of their schedule, like Ralph brought up last week, is very, very ugly. I'm just worried because we talked about this last week. For Valley Christian, the 3A doesn't send anybody up to the open, or should they? So, like, you have to be very, very good to get into the playoffs. Like, I love what Peterson's building over there. I think, he just ran into a situation where in 1 year, what do they call it? A perfect storm, where he doesn't seem to have the consistency at quarterback that he's had over the past few years. He doesn't have all the returners on either side of the ball like he's had in the past to kind of offset leadership in different areas. So, I don't know. I think that this Valley Christian team can end the season with 6 wins. I'm also worried that they could end the season with 6 losses, though. They're literally already halfway there. The schedule doesn't really get easier, so to speak. So, I like what Peterson does. I know he's going to figure this thing out. He's got 2 quarterbacks that do some different things. Hansel coming back is going to be big for them. They got some leadership on defense that I like. I like Gomez a lot. They got the other cornerback on the other side, Llewellyn, who's very, very solid. So I don't know. I think they got some offensive linemen that were returners. So I just hope they can figure this out. Rockefeller carries the way the rest of the way. Look, Seton is a 4A team that's, I guess, clearly on the rise, on the come up. Mm-hmm. So,
I was going to say, now talk to me about Seton. Talk to me about Seton, what this means for them.
Look, Benjamin Franklin just lost to Arcadia. So technically, the way this works out and shakes out, maybe Seton's supposed to be Valley Christian, the team in the bigger conference. Maybe this is the way that this is supposed to work out. And this is a great moment for Seton.
It is.
We've been looking for. Last night on my show, me and Ralph were talking about signature victories for other schools. I personally think that this is kind of a signature victory for them because of the success that Valley Christian has had for so long. And on this podcast, we've always celebrated them. So for Seton to get a victory like this in what we want to kind of become a rivalry, I think that this is big. And I think that this is absolutely something for Seton to build on. I think Luke is absolutely fantastic and is obviously taking care of business. The defense looks hungry. So, hopefully the Sentinels can carry this momentum the rest of the way and, find their way into the playoffs. And maybe they end up with a rivalry with ACP or something.
I mean, it'd be great. I mean, I was just, when I was seeing that score on Friday night, when I say excited, and we're never excited about a Valley Christian beatdown, it's of course more excited about Seton Catholic. I mean, I tagged the mayor in the tweet. I was like, dude, there's something brewing in this city.
Man, Brett is hot on Twitter on Friday nights right now. Dang. Brett must tune into Twitter on Friday nights. You never know what he's gonna say.
Ralph, I'll ask you, give me your take on what we're seeing. We're seeing obviously two teams going in opposite directions, and it's certainly not the direction that we might have thought in week one.
Yeah, you're right. To go back to last year's playoffs, the 14 seed was 6-4. The 15 seed was 6-4. The only team that snuck into the playoffs with a losing record in 3A last year was Safford, and that's because they played, I think, 8 of the top 10 teams on their schedule, and they had a 4-6 record. So, is Valley Christian's schedule
not something that we want to think about? But I guess Ralph is pointing out that hey, Valley Christian can't get in with 6 losses. That's crazy.
But I wouldn't count on that. I would say that 6 wins is the minimum. 6 wins is the minimum that you would want, and now you leave almost no margin for error with Benjamin Franklin still on your schedule. And you bring up Benjamin Franklin did lose to Arcadia, but Arcadia is a 4A school, and they're a top 10 ranked 4A school, and they only lost by 1. So that's going to be a real tough game in and of itself. Can you go 5-0 against all of your other opponents? And can Florence help you out by continuing to win? Can Seton help you out by continuing to win? But now they just got to worry about next week. And that's really what it comes down to is they asked Pete Walheim a question after the game of what do you got to do to keep this rolling? And he said, I just worry about next week. And that's the position that Valley Christian needs to be in as well. It's one game at a time to see if they can crawl back out of this hole, because it's not like they got stomped against Seton Catholic, but they had the ball with the opportunity to win against Thatcher. They lost by 1 touchdown to Florence in the last minutes. So they can do this, but not if they're beat up, not if they're, not if mentally they're going in the opposite direction. If they're steadfast, if they keep at it, they have a shot at getting back into this.
Hey, Brett, I got a question for you.
Yeah.
Seton, Valley Christian, both make the playoffs? One make the playoffs, or neither make the playoffs?
That's a very good question. I'm just looking at some notes here, and I'm looking at their opponent. That's a good question. I can tell you this, I can give you a more definitive answer this time next week. And it's not to push the question off, but I'll see. I'm going to the Valley Christian game on Thursday night. So I'll have a really good handle in person of what they bring and don't bring. And I mean, and we know Scottsdale Christian is, yes, it's 2A, but Scottsdale Christian's a good team. I mean, they're not a rollover 2 team. And then Seton Catholic, they host Alhambra, and Alhambra is 0-2. If Seton Catholic is able to kind of put that beating in and not have that letdown, some of my answers may change. So if you can give me one more week, I can give you, it may not be the accurate answer at the end of the year, but it will be a definitive answer.
Okay. That's fair. That's fair. Ralph put him on the clock.
All right. Good stuff. The Arizona College Prep Knights, they outscore the Wolves at the Estrella Foothills 62-28. Ralph, the 62 points, the most ever by an ACP team. Wow. Junior quarterback Evan Heinrich, he has a lot of weapons to choose from, man, whether he's throwing the ball downfield or handing it off. Again, we go back to that Seton Catholic word, balance, and that's what ACP certainly has a lot of. They do.
They do. I don't want to let them off the hook with this one. I know they dropped 62 points. It wasn't a perfect game. Do you ever watch a game? I mean, this happens all the time because obviously we cover the entire state. But do you ever watch a game, you're trying to pay attention to what's going on with one of the C-Town teams that we cover for this podcast? You end up falling in love with a player on the other team. That is what happened for me in this Estrella Foothills game because PJ Bailey went off in this game. 5 catches, 180 yards, and 2 touchdowns. And then I look him up. He's scored in 6 of his last 8 games. Chili, we got to put this kid on the radar. But offensively, every single thing that ACP did in this game worked. They let 6 different backs touch the ball. Everybody averaged at least 4, yards a carry. Evan Heinrich is the only one who didn't. He got in the end zone twice as a runner, threw 2 touchdowns. As a passer, they spread the ball around so well in this game. And then defensively, everyone got in on the action. It wasn't just Evan Fuller this time. Wyatt Ells had 2 tackles for a loss. Diego Bonilla had 2 tackles for a loss. And Schoonover, as a sophomore, ends up getting on the board with a sack. So just an awesome all-around performance, except on pass defense where they allowed only 1 incomplete pass all day. But just an awesome offensive performance, awesome performance against the run in this game against Estrella Foothills. They do right now look like one of the better teams in 4A.
I definitely like that. I like hearing that. I like seeing that. I do plan on seeing them before the end of the month. Chili, their next game is against Eastmark, and Eastmark is always good competition. I guess they got to do what they've been doing the last 2 weeks, and that's spreading the ball around and trying to play better defense, certainly, than they did this past week.
Yeah, look, that offense coached by Ortiz over there, super talented offensive coordinator. They're going to have their work cut out for them this week. This Eastmark defense is hungry, and they move well. Carson Menard is an absolute problem, and I think he's playing both ways now. Also, they got another kid, Keaton Blake, talented linebacker. So Ortiz is going to have to make sure that his guys on offense are locked in. I know he really wanted to credit his offensive line for making sure that they could have time to score those 62 points. He really wanted to show them some love. So shout out to the offensive line over at ACP for making sure that their offense was going. He said that was the key to their success. And yeah, man, they're going to have to do it again because Eastmark's no joke. Coach Lyons, that was his signature over at Highlands. So that these guys are going to, bring all sorts of pain and everything else. So, I'm excited to see how this matchup works out. I think, we've kind of been looking at this game as, a big deal for the last year or so. Also, last year and the year before, Eastmark has kind of been, doing their thing. So, yeah, I like this Eastmark team a lot. I know that on offense, they're trying to figure some things out, quarterback injuries and whatever, but that defense, they can take care of business.
I hear you. No, I think we're collectively agreeing also ACP is one of the better teams in 4A, and this is a good quality matchup that we like to see, and hopefully they come out with a W. The Casteel Colts, and this is where I'm going to do my rant. I'm going to take that chili rant and just go off for 90 seconds. They lose another tough one at home, this time to the Pride of Mountain Pointe, 27-20. They're now 1-2. I got to say I was impressed with quarterback Paul Palmer. I had never seen him before. I'll be the first to say I don't even think I realized he was a lefty. He reminded me a little bit of Nico Marchiol. He's a warrior out there. He's going to give it his all. He's going to leave everything on the field. He can throw. He can beat you with his legs. He's a leader. And I guess he was injured last year. I can't recall fully because when I did see them last year in the playoff game, he was not under center. I think it was Newcomb. So it was my first real exposure to Paul Palmer. And I talked to him briefly after the game. Yeah, I mean, he was disappointed, but he's a guy who wants to keep moving forward. Isaiah Linier, I like him at running back. He's got power and speed. He's a guy who just has to keep churning those legs. I mean, these guys are battlers, and unfortunately, they came up short. Raiden, let me see if I can pronounce his last name, Raiden Aguinaga, great kicker. I like the special teams, really good QB, good offense. Good defense. I mean, they only gave up the 20 points, and I think we all saw the difference in the game. A 101-yard fumble return by Mountain Pointe. That's the difference. Ralph, I'll say my takeaway from this game, having seen them, or not in person, but we know what they did against Queen Creek last week, and we see them fall short this week. They are a good team, but I'm not sure if they're ready to make that next step within the Premier region. That's kind of my fair assessment.
So what was it an issue where they were giving up points late again, or what happened to allow Mountain Pointe to ultimately win this game?
So here's the crazy thing. So it was 2020, and Mountain Pointe was driving. Well, I'll even say midfield. So it's a fourth down at midfield. What's the quarterback's name? Robert Knorr. Quarterback for Mountain Pointe. He was trying for like a quarterback sneak on that fourth down, trying to get that extra yard. It was either 4th and 1 or 4th and 2. The Casteel defense strips the ball from him and runs and gets tackled at the 16. So now you got all the momentum going for the Colts. They just stopped the fourth down. They're in the red zone immediately, and they pick up a first down. They get essentially the 1st and goal, but they're not able to close it out. And if you get the field goal in that situation, okay, you walk away with points, but your defense was able to do what they needed to do, and you couldn't score, wasn't even about a touchdown. You couldn't score the field goal. And consequently, Mountain Pointe was able to go back the other way, and that kind of squelched the momentum. So at that point, you're thinking minimum 3 points for Casteel, 1st and 10 at the Mountain Pointe 16, and they did nothing.
Wow. So tell me about this, because this is one of the strangest stat lines I've ever seen in my life. Did Ryland Dillard Allen really have a 105-yard fumble return for a touchdown? How do you return a fumble 105 yards?
I thought it was 101, but I guess technically they're saying 105. Now the ball was bouncing in the end zone, and Ryland Dillard Allen picked it up and sprinted the other way.
So,
so the ball fumbled forward.
Okay.
And Ryan Dillard Allen picked it up and zipped the other way.
So multiple trips to the red zone with nothing to show for it, including a 14-point swing.
Yes. That would be it. Yes, that's exactly it.
Yeah, that's got to frustrate. Casteel should be 3-0 right now. They really should.
Yes, and that's what we're saying. The offense is not closing it out. As gritty as Palmer is, as much as I want to praise Liniard, you got to convert. You got to run that clock down, and you got to score points.
So take me back to that situation real quick. On the 16, obviously already like in the red zone and stuff. Paul Palmer is your quarterback, who I absolutely have loved since freshman year. You compare him to Nico Marchiol. I compared him back in the day to like a baby Trevor Lawrence, super savvy, can sees the field well, moves well in the pocket when he needs to. Okay, 16-yard line. Guys like Mason Lewis, Elijah Beam, and Kabaki. What were you seeing from the playmakers out there that they weren't able to grab 16 yards? Because with all that talent right there, I would think that 16 yards shouldn't be difficult, even though Mountain Point's got a solid defense.
Defensively, well, they weren't really going for the pass. They felt that they could run, and they certainly weren't trying to milk the clock or anything, because they did get another first down to get them down to the 2-yard line. They weren't really going for the end zone. They figured, hey, you know what? Let's get a short pass. Let's run. Let's kind of try to wear down the Pride defense. So they did not. I don't want to say they didn't use Mason Lewis effectively. I definitely don't want to say that at all. But I think the game plan in the red zone, short passing and running, and let's try to grind it out. Let's try to go mano a mano, because it was an evenly matched game. Man. And I mean, the true difference was the fumble return.
Dang.
Yeah, it was.
Man,
it was tough.
Casteel's loaded.
Yeah, I like what the Colts have the ability to do. They just really need to they need to play 4 full quarters of football. They can't play 42 minutes of football. They can't play 40. It's got to be 48. And that's, I mean, they've got the good kicker. So, I mean, they don't always have to score the TDs to get points. So they're comfortable. And that's what was great about this game. You had kicker for kicker, Francisco Oduno, the kicker for Mountain Pointe. He had a 51-yard field goal. Wow. So everybody was going tit for tat. It was a well-played game, with the difference being that long, very long run back. So, yeah, it was tough, but they got to close games out. They really do. And, yeah.
Hey, so Rylan Dillard Allen has that world-class speed. Like, did you know the second that he picked that thing up that he was gone, that he was scoring? Like, at what point were you like, oh, he's gonna take this somewhere? Oh, he's gonna take this to the end zone.
I'll say probably before he crossed his own 10, you knew he was taking it to the house, because a lot of people didn't even realize what was happening, including myself for a second. You think, well, maybe there's going to be a whistle or something. You just don't see that type of return often. So, number one, his speed, no one was going to catch him. But number two, people were still getting off the pile, not realizing that there was a fumble. So it was really, from a foot race, no one was going to catch him. And the fact that half of the Casteel Colt team didn't realize what was happening or even in a position to try to catch him, yeah, you knew he was going. Inside his own 10, you knew that he was going to score. It's just a matter of whether it was going to count or not. Is there going to be some type of flag that gets thrown late, which happens in high school football? And it's so, yeah, I mean, I'll say, guys, they've got 2 winnable games, and then region play. They got Mountain Ridge coming up. They've got to win these. They've got to, because we know what the Premier Region is about. They're 1-2 now. We're rooting for the Colts. It's just 2 tough losses, 2 real tough losses. We'll see what transpires. And the next team has yet to lose a game, and that is the Perry Pumas. The Perry Pumas are now 3-0. They defeat the Queen Creek Bulldogs 21-12, scoreless at halftime, and then Cale Snyder started it going. LJ Walker and Cale, they combined nicely. Snyder, 294 passing yards and 3 TDs. Walker, 6 catches, 214 yards, a pair of scores. Chili, tell me about this other weapon that they have. I don't know much about him. Maybe you do from watching some freshman football. Kalen Frazier. He seems like he can run and catch the ball out of the backfield.
Hey, so last year when he was playing freshman ball, he was having like a Cooper Perry type freshman season. And I thought that he was going to get the early pull up. Instead, he got injured, but we nicknamed him five times Frazier, because he was finding the end zone 5 times a game, like in back-to-back games. So I thought he was going to get the early pull up like Cooper Perry did. Not bad company to be in, name association wise. And he ended up getting hurt. And so like it kind of stunted his opportunity to go up because it didn't make sense to bring him up playing varsity and running the risk of him getting hurt again immediately. So they kind of kept him on the lower levels. But the kid is an absolute weapon, as you guys can see. I absolutely love him. 5 times Fraser. I guarantee at some point in his varsity career, we are going to be talking about how he scores 5 touchdowns in a game. And him and Cale have an electric chemistry. Not, like super bromancy on the field, like kind of like Mahomes and Kelsey and stuff. So like they know exactly like how to work with each other. So I think that's very cool that they're going to get to grow together. And LJ Walker is an absolute stud. One of my C-Town criminally underrated and underloved guys, just like Elijah Beeman from Casteel. LJ Walker, I saw him holding up that championship belt for all that he did during the game. What do he have? Like 214, 3 touchdowns, making it look easy out there. And this ain't the first time. Like, he's been making it look easy all season. So my man LJ, just walk it in the end zone. Walker, hey, Cale Snyder's a dude also. Like, this is our next superstar quarterback in Arizona. I love it. I love what Perry's got going on. Shout out to Coach Ortiz. He really did it again.
Ralph, this team has done everything right so far. Big test this week against Brophy, who has also done a lot of things right. I'll be at that game as well, but just your overall initial. Yeah, I'm doing double duty. Look at Thursday and Friday.
Wow.
Ralph, Brophy at Perry should be a good one.
I'm going to test my mic real quick because I'm about to say something I've never said before, so let me bring it real close.
Oh, Lord.
How about that Perry defense?
Yo, yeah, there it is.
That's fair.
He did it.
No, that's right.
Hold on. Can we get one more? Can we get it one more time? Can we get it one more time? Quiet on the set.
You can't score on those Pumas.
Yo, Coach Ortiz has done it again. Yes. There we go. Coach Ortiz. Oh, man.
Felt weird. Felt new. I like it, though.
That's
man.
Yeah. I mean, it's great to see. I mean, for years, yes, it's been such a talk about their offense. But, yeah, defense stepping up. That's nice. It's nice to see. It really is against a quality opponent, too.
Oh, sure. Like, hey. Queen Creek scored more than twice as much in the fourth quarter against Casteel as they did the entire game against Perry. They spied Tate Reynolds. They found a way to shut him down in the running game, which almost never happens. Never. That is a tough quarterback to bring down. And they should be really proud of this one.
And I think up front, Ethan Austin was a big reason for that. That defensive tackle over there for Perry, he was flushing and making sure that Tate couldn't get everything that he wanted through the middle of that defense. Guys like Maddox Ford, playing all over the place. Like, dude, hey, last year Zach sent a tweet talking about put Perry in the open. I think those are realistic conversations that we might have to start having at some point here in the next couple of weeks.
Who said that?
Zach.
About this upcoming season?
No, he said it last year about last year's Perry team. He was way premature, and I think he was half joking, but this is a conversation that we're going to have this year probably.
Yeah, I mean, right now, if it wasn't for Marana, if it wasn't for the fact that you and I talked about this, Chili, Marana might go undefeated. And if they do, they'll get into the open. If
Coach Ortiz is feeling us right now.
Coach Ortiz is hype.
Oh, man.
He's just going to be Coach Ortiz because there's no Z on him now. Nobody's sleeping. Nobody's sleeping on Perry. He's just Coach Ortiz.
So here's the deal. If it wasn't for Marana, right now it would be a coin flip between Perry and Red Mountain as far as who deserves that like 8th slot in everybody's predicted open rankings. But you kind of have to include Marana because the way that it shakes out right now is it looks like they could go undefeated. And if they're undefeated, they're not going to get left out. In fact, as Chili pointed out, they might get one of the higher seeds. right now, right on that cusp,
is
Perry and Red Mountain. They're right there.
Yeah. I mean, when it comes to this, or even on the bigger stage, yeah, I'm all about Perry over Red Mountain. That's for sure. It's no, I truly am. It's it definitely is. Except for softball, Coach Rich Hamilton and Red Mountain. He retired, so maybe I am all about just Perry now.
Isn't Charlie Riggle's daughter out there playing Red Mountain?
Yeah, Red Mountain. Yeah,
right on.
Yes,
an absolute dog out there, just handling that business. Ready
you
to
heard
go.
it here first. Brett Quintyne hates Perry softball.
Oh, ouch!
No.
Actually,
he
said quite the opposite. He said that now that the lady from Red Mountain's out, he's all Perry softball. Hey, yes, we need the Perry softball hoodies for me, Brett, and Ralph. So
Perry has to be mad at us. Like, someone from Perry has to be mad at us at all times. Or what are we going to do? We don't know. We don't know what life is outside of someone from Perry being upset.
But yeah, I mean, I'll even say, I just want to mention just the whole the Marana Tigers. I talked to Coach Stewart over the weekend. Real good team, obviously. There's no doubt about that. I'm still a believer. 6A only for the Elite Eight. I'm just not into that 5A because, I mean, it's one of those things where we have never seen a team that is not 6A win a game. I mean, Saguaro and Sal Point, yes, those are the only exceptions, and they're both in 6A now.
Whether, regardless of the situation and the matchup, I don't know if there's any defense that can legitimately shut down Desmond Roebuck right now.
I mean, I'll give you that. I'll definitely give you that. That
kid is an absolute animal and playing like the best player in the state right now.
No, he is.
I firmly
there's
believe
no doubt
that.
about his skill or even how good
I know. I am just saying, and for me, and I've said this before to you guys, with you guys privately behind the scenes, I just love seeing the best players play under the brightest lights and on the biggest stage.
That's fair.
And man, what Roebuck is out there doing on both sides of the ball, I mean, for football purists, I would think that they love that and love to see him compete at the highest level.
No, it's yeah.
On that note, Perry and Coach Ortiz are doing their thing.
Yes, they are. Yes, they definitely are. Another team that's doing their thing, the Hamilton Huskies. They improved to 3-0 on the year with a 44-41 squeaker over the Boulder Creek Jaguars. Chile, this team pulled out a very late win. We're seeing Rich Lucero connect with senior tight end Logan James, who I wasn't too familiar with prior to this season. Good teams are going to get a scare every now and then, and I think this is good for them to have had that scare, but also be on the right side of it when the final whistle was blown. It's Chile, I just think this is what they needed early. Hopefully it's not a prelude of things to come. You don't want to have too many close games.
Yeah, look,
a win's a win.
A win is certainly a win, and they've managed to get through the first few weeks kind of unscathed. I think some of us wanted a bigger victory here and didn't get it. And, you know,
I'll be the first to say I was expecting a bigger victory because traditionally Hamilton rolls those type of teams.
Right, but I think a lot of us didn't give Boulder Creek credit for having some athletes that can take care of some business. They got a fleet of wide receivers over there. Talked about them last night. Brennan Curtin, Joey Longo, Carson Cornell. You know, defensively they're okay. But man, Hamilton, like the important thing is that they left last week with that dub. Shout out to Coach Dixon. Shout out to the staff over there, Mazzone, all those guys, Barrett. You know. You got to win these close ones, and sometimes you need a thriller from an unexpected team to, you know, help you figure out how to make the rest of the season take shape and form the rest of the season and figure out exactly where you're going. Sometimes you need to get punched in the mouth by David. but you better make sure that you don't let David come up with that W. So, you know, shout out to Hamilton and what they were able to accomplish, and just you know, leaving with that victory. I know, honestly, like me and Ralph, you know, we do our rankings and stuff like that, and we weren't so impressed with the way that they got this dub, but they did get it. A win is a win, like you said, Brett. Nico Jandro, an absolute monster.
Ralph, I'll say it seems like this team might still be trying to find their identity.
I think they found an identity. I just don't think I agree with that identity. I'm going to hold something up. I have to write backwards in order for it to show up forwards to you. So I don't know how this is going to look. What does that look like to you?
A P?
A P?
Yeah, it's supposed to be a 9. I can't do it. They are averaging. Hamilton is averaging 9 running back carries per game on the season.
Oof. I don't think that they have that guy in their backfield that they like. I don't know if Jacob. Maybe it's a Jacob Brown. Like Jacob Brown can certainly be that guy, but I don't know if like the way Mazzone's offense works, if he can be that guy like right this second. Because the other thing is you got to keep in mind, like, we didn't know when he was going to be available. Maybe they had a different plan for how he was going to be incorporated. I don't disagree, Ralph. I'm going to give them some time on that, because if you remember how Higley's offenses kind of ran with the running backs that they used and the way they used them, I don't know that necessarily fits Jacob Brown's skill set. Old school Hamilton, yes, absolutely. But the new wave that they got over there, dude, Jacob Brown's a fantastic running back. They just got to figure out a way to use him the way that he is supposed to be used.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm sure that it could be explained to me in a way that makes sense, but Hamilton, they got those Washington State colors, Washington State uniforms, and now they're trying to be Mike Leach, Washington State. Like I know you have to move your teams into the modern era, and we're long past the days of Steve Bellis and Deke Schutz and a 9-play playbook where the fanciest thing they do is run a reverse in the red zone. I know that we're past that, but at the end of the day, you have to respect your opponent enough to want to control the clock a little bit. And Hamilton got away with one. They had that bus ride. They really got away with one because they threw an interception with less than 4 minutes left, and they were losing.
Mm-hmm.
So the fact that they came back and won this game is a credit to the offense, but your defense is on the field quite a bit. You're putting the ball at risk quite a bit. And I don't know. It's just going to be interesting to see if does Hamilton need what Higley needed to get over the hump? That's the big question.
I'm glad that you brought that up, because you're talking about like the whole ball control thing. You remember how the second half of that championship game went for Higley, that was coached by Mazzone offensively. Like, so, I mean, ball control like that. You live by what do they say in basketball? You live by the 3, you die by the 3, right? Like, they just got to figure out a way to incorporate Jacob Brown, who's one of the top running backs in the state, into this offense. And I don't know, and I hope it's not like jamming a square peg to a round hole, but somehow, they have to. I agree with you, Ralph. They got to figure out a way to get some ball control on that offense, how to manage that clock better. I just don't know how that works.
Jacob Brown is currently averaging 5.5 touches per game total for 28 yards a game total.
Crazy.
They if he's who you say he is, they got to get him in rhythm.
They have to figure it out. Yes, I mean they're scoring points. I mean, they definitely are scoring points. That's increasing, but yes, it needs to It needs to fit. They are actually in the midst of 4 straight road games. They won't have a home game for a very long time, and hopefully they can control the ball and get the points and come up with better defense. They play at Ahwatukee. They take on 1-2 Desert Vista, the Thunder, on Friday night. The Chandler Wolves, they improved to 3-0 after crushing the Warriors of Westwood 42-12. Keeping it on the ground. That's what they do. Senior running back Tristan Halsana, 168 yards on the ground, 3 touchdowns. Ralph, this is just great to see. And if we project, he's on pace for a 1,500-yard year.
Yeah, I mean, it's like going from the hot tub to the swimming pool right here, talking about, do they need to reestablish the running game, which is what we talked about with the Chandler Wolves for the majority of 2021, 2022. So they are beginning to gain the experience. I think the one thing that a lot of these teams had on Chandler is a lack of experience. It's not the toughest early season schedule that we've ever seen Chandler play. IMG's not walking through that door, right? Corona Centennial's not walking through that door. So Chandler has given themselves in this season where they're only returning like 8-9 players that were playing significant reps last year. They've given them themselves the opportunity to establish their identity, the run, the experience that they need, get multiple quarterbacks reps in case you end up having to play more than one, and then just sticking to feeding Tristan Halsana the rock. And, thus far, the 14 carries for 168 yards and 3 touchdowns in this last game is one thing, but we're now talking about him over the course of a full season, because he made appearances in 7 games as a junior, 3 games as a senior, only 65 carries, but over that 65 carries, averaging 10 yards a carry and a touchdown for every 6 touches the entire way. We talked about last week, is he one of those ones? Does he belong on the list of Chandler running back names, or is he just this year's starter? And he's really, really starting to prove that he very much belongs to have his name mentioned alongside all of those great Chandler running backs.
Absolutely. I mean, the yards obviously are going to be tougher to come by really starting after next week. But at the same time, what I do like is they found a go-to guy. And that's something that coming into this season, as you alluded to, there wasn't a lot of guys coming back, or as many as we were used to seeing. And the big thing for me, I was like, I want to see them go 4-0 before they hit the big boys. And they are certainly trending that way. So I'm liking what I'm seeing out of the Wolves. Chili, something that is really great. I mean, we've been talking about the offense and the running game. Defensively, they've given up just a total of 33 points all year, and that is saying something.
Yeah, look, I think that Chandler's doing great with what they have on their schedule right now. I think they're doing everything that we expect them to do. One thing for I guess context or whatever, that Cesar Chavez team that they kicked the season off with, I don't think that Chandler expected to get punched in the face like that by them based on what happened the year before, even though there was a new coach and a few new players. So for Chandler to be able to respond to that, super impressed. I love what Halsana is doing this year. What did he have? He had like 168 yards on 15 carries and 3 touchdowns, and took the second half off, and hung out with his boys in the back and cheered on his teammates. So shout out to him. That offensive line, Blake Spear, Logan Ray, those guys over there looking really good. Blake Spear looked like a monster. Will Menzel, I know that they're I don't want to say got a 2-headed quarterback, but I know that they are somewhat juggling the 2 quarterbacks, Dom Carmigiano, super talented 2026, and then Will Menzel, the ridiculously talented 2027. So Will Menzel looked fantastic, and Dom's doing his part to kind of keep everything afloat too, from I guess his kind of backup position. And then on defense, like they got dudes, Roca, Kupu, Browder, Bradley, Kiwi. Man, I like the way that this Chandler team is built.
I'm an Aiden Browder fan.
And And most importantly, they are doing the things that they have to do right now. Cesar Chavez was good. And Cesar Chavez is going to be a team that I think makes a playoff run in the 6A conference playoffs. So Chandler playing that game close, cool. I'm okay with that right now. All these other games that they're blowing teams out, that's exactly, Ralph, that's exactly what me and you always want them to do. We want them to be the boogeyman versus teams that they have to be the boogeyman for. Chavez just isn't one of those teams right now. And you're right, IMG, Corona Centennial, those teams aren't coming through the door right now, maybe not anytime soon. So, shout out to Chandler giving themselves some time to, get through, a little bit of softer schedule after all the years of playing those grueling gauntlets. So I love what Coach Garrettson's doing over there. I like my guy, Coach Boyd, made the move up to varsity. I got to check out their young freshman team. I think that those guys are going to be solid, but love what they got going on.
And I just want to make sure I give a shout out. AJ Roca on that defense, tackle for loss, interception, forced fumble, I believe. Big game for him.
Absolute problem.
And I mean, here's the other thing. It's while yes, we say that yes, it is a softer schedule, which is very good. The teams that they've beaten are collectively 5-4. So it's not like they're just blasting winless teams. I mean, they're beating teams, as you said. Cesar Chavez is going to compete. So I mean, they're doing what they're supposed to do, which is all we can ask.
Well, hold on, and I just had the weirdest moment, and I got it.
I feel you've had a lot of weird moments in your life, though.
Shout out to my guy, Coach Chick. Since I went off on this little offensive line tangent, I got to show some love to Noah Swope too. He's on it for some reason. His name just popped in my mind, and every time like a Chandler offensive lineman pops into my mind, like I think of Coach Chick. So real quick, let me shout out all them big boys. So get them right. Logan Ray, Noah Swope. They got a couple of them over there. Blake Spear. Those guys look absolutely fantastic. The Chandler trenches are somewhat back. It might not be like back in the day, but like they're kind of figuring this thing out. And I think we are seeing that with the development of the running back Halsana.
Sounds good to me. And they'll face a winless Corona del Sol team on Friday night.
Boogeyman.
Last but not least, the Basha Bears. Chili, I'm going to throw out a date on you. October 28th, 2011. What were you doing then?
I don't know.
Ralph, what were you doing?
I was doing radio for sure. I was definitely doing radio.
I think you had 2 less kids.
Yeah, I was working for Valerie Bertinelli at a Groupon knockoff company.
Interesting. I had not moved here yet. I was still a New York City resident. That's the last time that the Saguaro Sabercats were shut out. That final was Chaparral 65. Saguaro,
oh my God,
nothing.
The ESPN game.
I was at that game. Shout out to Coach Regal. Coach Regal was so mad. Coach Regal was so mad. Yeah, Coach Regal was so mad. DJ Foster was on the sideline over there. I'm sorry, DJ. I didn't mean to say that like that, but he didn't play in the game. They kept him off the field. What's it called? Saguaro didn't want to play any of their starters.
Wait, hold on. Wait, pause. Brett, do you know about this?
I don't. No, I truly. This is just me researching.
All right, you got to go back to the beginning, Chili, and you got to explain this to Brett.
Yeah, I know nothing about it except
this was actually what you handled.
This rivalry had been shut down for like a few years. I don't remember exactly how many years, maybe like 4 years or 5 years or something like that. They finally brought this rivalry back. Actually, you know what? Hold on, real quick. They brought this rivalry back, and Coach Regal was so excited about it. They made these shirts, which I still have one. I got to see if I can find it. Dang. And ESPN came out, and Coach Regal had me bring the radio station out for lunchtime to get all the kids hyped. We were mixing and all that stuff, and then he brought me back out to DJ on the sideline in front of the student section, and doing my thing, and kids all going crazy. And every time Chaparral would score, and Coach Regal found out what was going on and saw DJ Foster not playing, and he was literally yelling across the field, play your guys, like this. And he was so mad I want to say that they were up like 28-0, like early, like maybe end of the first quarter, early second quarter, absolutely destroying them. And Coach Regal was just fuming. And like normally he was pretty cool during games. I'd be like, "Hey, Coach, what's going on?" He'd be like, "Man, I can't believe this crap. I can't believe that they wouldn't play their guys. Like this is absolute bush league." And Sanders was claiming like, "Oh, Chaparral feels hot right now because they got all these stars over there, and we're not trying to get our guys hurt for a meaningless game. We're just going to try to go win this state championship because that's the bigger thing for us." But man, ESPN was furious. Coach Regal was steaming mad. I've never seen Coach Regal that mad in my life. But he also did not let off the gas. He said, "Hey, look, if they want to be embarrassed, we're going to embarrass them. We are going to embarrass them. They want to come over here and get embarrassed. We will embarrass them." And he did not take his foot off the gas. He put like the bench in like I want to say early second half, and he stayed with the playbook. He's like, "Nope." He's like, "We're running through all the pass plays. We're gonna make sure that look, you want to get humiliated, come to Chaparral and get humiliated." And that was crazy.
In this case, Chaparral, that's C-Town.
That is also C-Town. Another
yes,
another C-Town.
Yes. But that was the last time that the SaberCats were blanked, and Basha put it on them. 50-0 on Friday night. They are up 3-0 on their season. Chili, Ralph, I don't know what more can be said about this really strong Basha Bears team. Chili, I like to say the Chili Ranch. Go ahead, Chili. They got everything clicking for them. Everything.
First thing, shout out to Jake Hildebrand, ranked number 29 on Rivals Top 100. I think that this is the highest ranked Basha player maybe ever in the history of Rivals 100 early ranking. I don't even think Ryan Kelly or Demond Williams was that high. Wow. Noah Roberts also is right outside of that too, based on my intel that I have. So shout out to Jake Hildebrand. Shout out to Michael Bila. He played really, really well in that Saguaro game. Sam Garcia has been an amazing leader, so their trench is also looking amazing over there. Quarterback play is super solid. Brody Veers doing Brody things. We already mentioned the running back Noah Roberts, who's been a killer, and then this wide receiving core, like all of them. Gio, my guy Cash Brock, what's it called? Jaden Baldwin. Like they got like dudes, and then defensively, Trey Knotts looks solid. And look, they got to get this tune up in. So I just want to make sure that we give some love to Trey Knox, Mark Dewerson, one of them young boys out there playing some linebacker. Xavier Rivera, my guy over there playing the other corner. Those guys are going to have the work cut out for them this week. I know we're going to talk about that in a little bit. Mason Comer, the tight end, looking solid. Dude, they look as good as it can get this year in Arizona high school football right now.
Ralph, just really strong team. It really is. There's not a whole lot that we can add. I mean, they're good.
Yeah, and they've done all this and having only forced one turnover on defense so far. So, sometimes you have regression to the mean when people are overperforming, and then sometimes you have progression to the mean. That's going to pick up. You already have Caden Smith with 5 sacks and 5 tackles for a loss. The defense pitched a donut to Saguaro. I'm surprised, Chili, you weren't out there with Rainbow Donuts this week, serving them up to the team like you used to. But why? Hey, you used to be out here delivering food. You were the original Uber Eats driver.
Uber Eats, yeah.
But
deal.
No, they look like the most complete team in Arizona right now. That does not, to me, make them number one. I think the throne is the throne until somebody takes it from you. But they do right now look like the most complete team in the state of Arizona, and that's even without forcing too many turnovers on the defensive side of the football.
Mission Viejo is next. Chili, what do you know about that squad?
They're solid. They got two of the best receivers, two of the best athletes that Bash is going to see. Vance Spafford, Phillip Bell, those guys can absolutely go, absolute dogs. Mission Viejo also has two quarterbacks, Luke Fahey, who's a super talented junior dual threat quarterback. And then they got another kid, a super, I absolutely love him, super cerebral, Drayden Trudeau, pocket passer, got some escapability. Man, I think that this game is going to be amazing. It's going to be a lot of fun. So much fun that I'm going to make my way out there to go watch Basha go head to head with what I think is going to be the best team that any Arizona team plays this year. Mission Viejo is very good.
Good stuff. Very good stuff. I mean, it sounds like that's going to be a great matchup. Folks, that's your wrap up of the 8 teams. We've got really talented folks all over the place. And these are 3 talented folks. We are glad you joined us. He's Chili. He's Ralph. I'm Brett. We'll see you guys next week.
317.